You know how sometimes someone will just leave a random person will leave a comment and it's like, why did you do that? Who are you? Why are you saying this? Somebody left a comment on a terrible erotic thriller that I reviewed, and I think it was supposed to be an insult, but it just made me feel like this would be a great episode. I don't know if you've ever heard of Killing Me Softly.
Mm-hmm.
It is also truly terrible. Heather Graham, Joseph Fiennes, 2002. Somebody left this review, and I honestly don't know if they were trying to be mean to me or something, because I'm convinced that you have to be a straight man or a lesbian to find Joseph's behavior in this film anything short of sizzling. Okay? He is electric. The only way I can think of this being seen as somehow funny, because I thought it was very funny, is if you are not comfortable with masculine sexual intensity. What?
I was voted most comfortable with masculine sexual intensity in high school. Hello and welcome to Unwatchables, where the real disturbing movies are the friendships we made along the way. I am Marc Dottavio.
I'm Seth Troy.
And today we are joined again by Jetta Weinstein, aka Letterboxd's The Iron Cupcake, to discuss the film that scarred a generation of Home Alone fans. Macaulay Culkin was at the height of his child's stardom when his father/manager signed him on for Home Alone 2 under one condition: that his next role be the murderous child sociopath in 1993's R-rated thriller, The Good Son. We'll talk about who this movie was possibly made for, whether it was actually responsible for the end of Culkin's career, and if it has the most insane ending we've ever seen.
Will you be a good son, Macaulay? Will you be in this batshit movie for me?
Well, I never thought of it from that angle.
That's so whack.
He was being the good son for Kit Culkin, the devious
Kit.
father,
Though I'd
stage
argue
dad.
he was also a sociopath in the Home Alone movies. He enjoyed inflicting pain on people there, so this is not really a huge stretch for him.
You know, you're
I
right.
think.
And he delivers his lines so much exactly the same as he does in the Home Alone movies. You could really switch them out.
I know. I don't think there's any real difference.
Yeah, he just moved to
what
Maine.
He does. Yeah.
Exactly. But and I almost didn't even introduce Jetta.
We're so familiar.
Hello.
You can find Jetta's writing on Letterboxd. Is that the main place where you do everything now? You don't do anything with that outside blog anymore?
No, that's been defunct for a few years. But
Okay.
I love Letterboxd. It's my diary, basically. So
You're a big deal on there.
I'm a medium deal.
I don't know.
I'm okay. I just
and you've been on a bunch of. I've seen a number of different podcast appearances that you've done since our first time. You first were on our show. Gosh, what was it now? 2022? Maybe?
June 2022, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we did the Golden Age of Porn episode, where we talked about 3 different theatrically released pornos. I'm trying to remember what the titles were now. There was the opening of Misty Beethoven, The Devil and Miss Jones,
right?
And is it her name was Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay, I got them all. One.
Still my favorite episode. I think I'd rather watch porn than any of these movies we've watched, I think. So that's just the rule, kind of.
Not a bad choice.
Seth's always pushing for more porn.
I could always do a part 2 episode.
It's purely for, humanities studies.
It's for the articles.
Academia.
Yeah, so this movie, however, not pornography.
No, it is not. Let's just come out and say it right now. Good Son is not pornography.
It is not. Maybe in the sense that violence can be pornographic, right? But not in the traditional sense. But this This movie is kind of close to my heart because I saw it very young, and I was wondering. I know, Seth, you just watched it for the first time, but Jetta, is this something that you saw kind of recently for the first time, or were you one of the
Um,
children who were traumatized by this?
I don't think I was a little child. I feel like I was a teenager, but this is the third or fourth time I've seen it, so clearly something about it has stuck with me. I just can't get rid of it. It's terrible, but I can't get rid of it.
This this could very possibly have been like my 10th time seeing it in my life because I was trying to remember exactly how long ago it was when I would have first seen it, and I don't think I could have been any older than third grade, maybe the first time that I saw it. And I don't know. I haven't talked to my parents about it. I don't even know if they watched it with me or not, but they would have let me rent it. So
Mm,
I can only assume that they were one of the many people who were like, well, okay, it's a movie with Macaulay Culkin in it.
right.
And he's
What
good.
harm could that do? Yeah,
And
right in the
he
title.
was coming right off of Home Alone 2, which I'd imagine has to be maybe his biggest like box office hit. I didn't look at the numbers. That or Home Alone would have had to have been.
Mm-hmm.
And so as
Probably.
this being the direct follow-up is just crazy. And I guess it was this idea that this was going to show him as having range or being a serious actor, but then again, you don't really know how much was him and how much was this stage dad who was in control of everything.
Kit.
True. And I'd argue, I mean, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't think he ever had range as an actor. I mean, maybe he does now, but not then. I mean, I feel like he kind of just he was a smart kid and he kind of coasted along on that charm, whether he was doing Home Alone or this. He kind of just does the same thing. It's interesting, it's entertaining, but I don't think it's range like Elijah Wood had as a child actor. Like, if you compare
No.
those performances, like Elijah Wood, he's got emotion, he's got a way of responding to situations, even in this bizarre script. You feel like it's real. With Macaulay Culkin, it's like, I don't know, questionable.
Yeah, he can yell and freak out at a certain point,
Yeah.
and that's his trademark, and he can
Mm-hmm.
remember his lines, and maybe he's a little professional trained boy. But Elijah
Right,
Wood, yeah, for
precocious.
sure, is
Yeah.
very impressive in this movie for a child actor.
Hmm.
Yeah, seeing them both together really underscores, yeah, in the other movies. I don't know, it was just kind of a right place, right time thing, I guess, for him being in these hits, because he definitely is not great. And like you said, maybe he is now. I haven't really seen any of his adult work. A lot
Yeah.
of, child actors will grow into that. I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people used to make fun of Natalie Portman, I think, like in the Star Wars movies and stuff, and she's obviously become a great actor.
Right, right. I mean, people mature. I mean, there's no question that child actors can become different kinds of actors. But I don't know. No one's ever going to convince me that Macaulay Culkin was really a gifted child actor. He just could do one particular thing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this definitely is the most different thing. Like this is the one outlier of all the different movies that he did. And it's weird because I had this memory of it. Like this has this reputation of being a flop and even being something that started to kill his child acting career. But looking back at the stats, it looks like I don't know, it had like a $17 million budget, and everything that I found says that it made 60 million worldwide, which I don't know, back in the early 90s, they probably didn't put as much stake in the worldwide gross as we do now. So maybe it still was not up to expectations with the box office performance that they wanted, but it definitely didn't launch a dramatic career. But he did still do like the Page Master and Richie Rich afterwards. It seems like his
Right.
retirement was self imposed and happened regardless of this movie. So I wouldn't necessarily say this was like a career killer for him,
No, I don't think so.
but I would say it was a misstep. Like a
Yeah,
colossal
definitely.
misstep.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
that I'm not
what did
grateful to
anyone think
have
the
it.
audience would want from this? Like, did anyone think the audience wanted him to do this?
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know if they wanted him to do it, but at the same time, there are these like through lines with Home Alone and this. There is like this sort of like, well, we would probably go to the kid who beats up people for
Yeah.
this to be a kid who beats up people. But
Yeah.
yeah,
What
like
if he
what you're
pushed his
saying,
mom off a cliff this time?
yeah, it's just not a
Exactly.
burglar. It's his mom because, well, yeah, like at a certain point, your mom leaves you at home too many times. Which actually they have a problem with that in this. That like that's part of the that's part of the issue they keep having, where there's like I left the kids alone and something bad happens, and then they're like, but now we're gonna go out tonight anyways, and we're gonna leave them alone again, and something bad's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and then it's like, oh, why do I keep leaving them alone? Let's go out on a date again. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah,
The,
he pretty much is still home alone in this, even though there's parents around.
yeah,
Quite
the parental
often.
neglect to violence pipeline, very short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very short.
Well, yeah, you mentioned the budget, Mark, and like on top of it being the obvious weirdness, capital W is the Macaulay Culkin being this evil, infant, terrible kid. But what's what's even weirder in my mind at the end of the day is the budget and the sheer like bombastic filmmaking. Like you kind of have no idea what kind of movie this is once it starts because and it's such a good example of how weird movies were in the 90s. It's just like how every movie had to be a capital M movie, it felt like, whereas like there's this sweeping score. That's like the main thing with this. Like
Oh yeah.
every single, there's no silence in this movie hardly at all. There's always like big strings telling me how to feel about this like really weird complicated scene, or like these, like there's like the beginning with the funeral and everything where Elijah Wood's mom dies, and they go to the funeral, and there's all these like drive across the country, and there's these beautiful landscape shots, and it's like an epic, it feels like an epic movie at a certain point. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I was reading that like they were encouraged to develop this after the success of The Silence of the Lambs. And that kind of puts this in perspective for me because the movie does have this whole like
Okay.
prestige film gloss to it.
Yes.
There's you have the sweeping orchestral score, which is maybe the craziest thing about this movie to me is the Elmer
Honestly.
Bernstein score.
Oh yeah, I absolutely hate it. I hate it. Every time I
Yeah.
watch this movie, I'm like, why is it so loud? Why is it just so unforgiving? It's just wall
It
to
is
wall.
all sweeping strings and piano and flutes and bassoon,
Yeah.
and it has this kind of adventurous feel to it, like this could be the score for like Tom and Huck or something.
Right. It's so out of place.
Tom
And
and Huck.
like
Get
this is
out of
the
here.
it's by Elmer Bernstein, who like he's scored like well over 100 different movies, like older ones like the Ten Commandments, the Sweet Smell of Success, the Magnificent Seven, To Kill a Mockingbird, but then all these 80s comedies like Ghostbusters and uh, Animal House and Blues Brothers and stuff. And man, he just like he totally goes for it in this and has the whole orchestra doing it. And it is so jarring with what we're seeing to have it suddenly pick up like this. Like this is a movie where Macaulay Culkin drowns his baby brother in the bathtub, and all of a sudden it kicks in with this twinkly like Mrs. Doubtfire score,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it is so dissonant. But yeah, and like you were saying, Seth, there's all these sweeping landscape shots. There's always people like standing at the edge of a cliff or in the middle of a canyon or a desert, or these big main coastline vistas. And it even
Very
gets into
environmental.
these. Yeah, and they give this lip service to like it's making some sort of statement about the nature of evil, but it's all so just 100% on the surface. Like this really is like a cheap, shameless thriller on top of everything, but they just throw kids into the gears.
But I think it's also true that the movie doesn't even really know what it wants to be from the beginning because I can't believe no one has mentioned the Comic Sans opening credits.
So funny.
I mean, it's like right from the beginning, you don't know what tone it's supposed to have. Like,
Yes.
what is that? Why would you do that? Even in 1993, that had to have looked stupid. So, just bad choices all around.
It was like the Full House opening.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's
It's
going
bizarre.
to it feels like a tear-jerking family drama, but then also pretty much like a horror movie. I guess thriller is what you would ultimately call it, but I don't know. It's like it wants to be so serious about what it's talking about, but it's so clearly getting off on just how much of an evil boogeyman little Macaulay Culkin is. And if anyone hasn't seen this movie, Seth already said that the Elijah Wood's mom dies, and then he goes to stay with his, I guess, his uncle and aunt, and then cousin, who is Macaulay Culkin. And I mean, that's basically it. He just turns out to be this evil psychopath. And we
Macaulay.
learn that he most likely was responsible for the drowning death of his baby brother. He starts just endlessly tormenting Elijah Wood. It's just constant. He seems to always be creeping around, like just standing there. And he seems to be at all places at once, just constantly trying to humiliate him and make it seem like he's crazy and make him think that he's poisoning the food or that he's going to kill his little sister. And it's so frustrating. Like when I was a little kid watching this, it really did like
it would
just
really fuck you
traumatize
up.
me.
Oh my god!
Because it has everything.
I can't
It has
imagine.
like it has like
Gaslighting and
it starts with losing a parent, and then you have the whole no one will believe you or listen to you. You have the deaths or attempted murders of children and parents. It has like everything that would tap into these elemental fears, but in a totally like exploitative
Oh
way.
yeah, like when Macaulay Culkin tosses his sister out to the thin ice. That is just, I mean, I laugh. That is such a
it's so
ridiculous
hardcore.
moment. Woo! Just like out there. It's incredible. I'm sure it is supposed to be a horrifying moment, but the way it's done is just, it's so poorly handled. And I think for me, the weirdest part is Joseph Rubin. He had already directed The Stepfather and also Sleeping
Right.
with the Enemy. So I like to think this is kind of like the last part of a trilogy about the perfect American family, which actually has all this evil lurking underneath. But it's so badly done. I mean, The Stepfather is legitimately great. The Sleeping with the Enemy is
That's a fun movie.
okay. Yeah, it's okay.
I mean, The
But this
Stepfather. I
is,
haven't seen
oh,
Sleeping with the Enemy, but
yeah, you can skip it. But this one is just like every choice is so bad. How could this director have gotten so many things wrong? So it just kind of baffles you to figure out what anyone intended.
well,
One of
apparently this
my
was one of those movies that was in development for like 5 to 10 years, and it went through different writers and different directors, and
Okay.
they hired Ian McEwan, the novelist, to write the
Wow.
script. This is the guy who wrote Atonement, and The Cement Garden, like a bunch of these really high profile novels. And I would love to know what his original script was like, because it seemed once Kit Culkin got involved, he replaces the director and brings in Joseph Rubin, who, from what I can tell, is pretty much a hack. And he brings in his writing partner to redo the script. And so even though Ian McEwan still gets the sole writing credit, which I think he had to like fight for in court, I'm pretty sure that what we're seeing is something that's both watered down and probably more sensationalistic than the original thing would have been. So that helps explain the
Probably.
existence of this movie to me, is that it feels like it's something that went through a bunch of different hands, and we have all these competing agendas where we want it to be a star vehicle for Macaulay Culkin, we want it to be a thriller, we want it to be a prestige like family drama with the roaring strings going on, and it's just this car wreck.
Right. And I also feel, I mean, I may be alone in thinking this, but I always feel like there's such a strangely missed opportunity because they got David Morse to play the father, but then he only has a couple of scenes and then he's gone. So it's like, why did they even need a really great actor to do that? Like, he's just out of there. And I have to say, he says one of the worst lines I think I've ever heard in any movie. I'm leaving you now, so I never have to leave you again. I cannot explain why I hate that so much. It makes me angry. It's
I
such
gotta go
a
make a shit ton of money in Japan, and then we can just
yeah,
hang out forever.
like you don't need to know why or for what, or it's just leaving you now, so I'll never have to leave you again. I don't know. It makes me just ugh.
I could
And
never
then,
also,
understand why he can't take him, by the way. Why can't he just take
yeah,
him to Japan for 2 weeks? His mom just died. Like, can't they just have a little time
he knows
together in a
no
foreign
one
city?
like
it's
in
so weird.
California that they can stay with. He's got to go like literally the opposite side of the country to find a babysitter for Elijah Wood.
I know.
Crazy. Also, they don't fly. They're apparently very well off. They don't fly. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever.
That
Um,
too.
Bizarro. And also, the other dad, Macaulay Culkin's dad, he's like the most frustrating character in this almost. He's just like he's just always pissed at Macaulay Culkin's mom, who is just understandably distraught about various things, even though it's comedic because she's like always like, I can't believe I left my son alone and then he died. And then again, she like leaves the house and leaves the kids behind. But like the dad is just constantly like after the sister almost dies in the ice, the mom obviously runs to the hospital and is like, is she okay? He just seems immediately pissed off. I just find it's like very humorous. He's like, oh no, come on, she's fine, all right, calm down, she's fine. And then like there's like all these other instances where like mom is understandably freaking out and he just seems like super pissed off that she's freaking out about something totally legit.
Yeah, how dare you be sad or concerned
Yes,
about your children?
about your drowned son.
And at one point, Macaulay Culkin is like, Henry wants to move into Richard's old room, and that automatically upsets the mom, and the dad's like, we gotta get over it sometime, honey. And of course, it's a lie too, because everything
I know.
that he does is is to try and make him look bad, which does get kind of funny at a certain point. But you're right, the mom
and the idea of putting Elijah Wood in that room to torture him later, to make him feel bad for his supposed lies, like, ugh, who would do that? Why would you stick him in that room? I mean, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, and the mom, the way that she is constantly regretting that she left, the little boy alone in the bathtub. But these two kids just run amok for the whole movie. Like they're always running down like a pier or climbing up this tree house that's like 4 stories high with little rickety steps that just fall off as they go.
It's so dangerous.
They play
Don't
around
do
a
that.
cliff.
And
a cliff that's like a 500-foot drop.
No one ever checked the shed before now, so no one had ever seen or heard of the existence of Mr. Highway. He was just allowed to sit in there.
Oh yeah, Mr. Highway is a little like doll man that Macaulay Culkin dresses up and pushes off a bridge to cause a car accident.
A full-size doll man.
Oh yeah, and a full-size car accident involving like 10 cars.
So like
that
the
moment
parents
is so
never
crazy.
needed that shed for years. They never knew.
And of course, when they walk in, there's like dolls hanging from a noose.
Yeah, it's the Dahmer shed. But
Mr. Highway is a crazy memorable thing. But we also have him. He builds this giant like bolt gun that he kills a dog with.
See, that's one of my favorite things. It looks like like that movie Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. He has like a crazy vampire slaying crossbow. It looks just like that. Like, how did he build that thing? And yeah, he kills a fucking dog. Another layer that would just bum the fuck out of a kid in this.
Yeah.
And Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Seth.
Don't fuck with me.
That
is the other amazing part of this. Macaulay Culkin has a sailor's mouth. He swears because he's a bad son, not a good son. He's always swearing, and he says hell and damn and fuck, and he smokes.
Yes.
I trust that Tony is going to cut in the clip from that movie, because that, and like the first time that we really get a glimpse at him is when Elijah Wood almost falls off the treehouse and he's dangling and holding on to Macaulay's hand. And he's been pretty much normal up to that point, and then all of a sudden he comes out with, "If I let you go, do you think you would fly?" That is so wonderful.
So
hey, Marc,
hardcore.
Where's your sense of humor?
Oh yeah, he's always saying that. What a little bitch. He's so mean.
He really is like this Hannibal Lecter type character, because if they were trying to make some movie that took somewhat seriously a child who is a sociopath, which is a real thing. Like, I've read some really fascinating articles about parents who grew up and realized that their child was a sociopath. And, this this takes such a superficial view of that, where he seems like an evil genius mastermind with no interior life at all. Like he's practically cackling the whole time, and there's not a sense of him actually being a child. I
That's
guess,
the biggest problem, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
He
Which I
seems
guess
like a
he does.
mastermind. He seems like a man. He's like a little
Yeah.
evil villain man. And then you have to keep reminding yourself, like, no, he's a little boy. And like they totally lost that aspect of it that should be actually the scary part, that it's a little boy doing this. But after a while, it just does feel like just totally unreal.
And it doesn't help that Macaulay Culkin is just reading all the lines with this blank cadence, which is very much like his other movies, basically. Which, I mean, it's in a one note kind of way. It's occasionally kind of creepy or just weird seeing it being him saying these lines. Like, I mean, that's the appeal of this, watching it now, right? Like, as far as this being a crazy train wreck, the fact that it's Macaulay Culkin is what makes this like a memorable kind of bad movie.
Right. I think the precociousness and the adorableness being at odds with the character is still interesting, but yeah, I mean, it's just you can't figure out like, well, you've got him doing that, but then you've got Elijah Wood who's actually like giving so much effort into his performance. Some would say for no good reason. Like he's giving 100%. I mean, he's really trying hard to sell the character as believable in all these situations, which, I mean, good for him.
Yeah,
But
we talked about North
why?
on a previous episode, which is a terrible movie, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but he is like really good in it. So
Right.
I think
Yeah.
he was one of the better child actors at that time.
I mean, the way he
Definitely.
plays nervous, he's like full on, like he feels like a nervous New Yorker or something. Like he's like, I buy it. I just buy him as like a little tiny nervous adult, and it's very impressive.
Right, he's got those wide eyes that really convey so much emotion. He barely even has to do anything, and you can feel the nervousness and the desperation. He's really great at doing that. So, I mean, I appreciate that about this because once you get toward the end with that Sophie's choice, it's like, wow. I mean, you have to believe his all the emotion in that moment, as
Oh
stupid as it
man,
is.
yeah. Do we
Oh
talk
yeah,
about that scene now? Like
oof. Because
one
yeah,
of
I mean
man.
the ending. I mean, especially when I was little watching this, like that's really what scarred me. Was just like I cannot believe that a movie can end like this.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get totally into the ending, we would at least we do at least have this kind of surrogate mom son thing going on with Elijah Wood, right? So there is this attempt at this kind of drama where he kind of believes that his aunt is kind of like a reincarnation of his mom or something.
Yeah, that feels like leftover from some other draft by some other scriptwriter or something.
I'm not sure he believes it. I mean, he says it, but
Yeah.
don't know that he really truly thinks it or if he's just messing with his
Yeah, it's an
cousins.
idea that drops in and then it goes away, but
Mm.
it's something that Macaulay Culkin exploits for sure.
Yeah, and it's not really like a necessarily a supernatural thing he believes, as like
No,
he's like wants her to be his mom, and it does make you think that like maybe he's supposed to replace the evil kid or something. I don't know.
that's how
Yeah,
karma works.
right.
We do have Macaulay Culkin's real life sister also playing his sister in this, which is not
Mm.
hard to tell because there were certain scenes where she looks so much like him. Like it was almost like they just put Macaulay in a wig, like to play his own sister or something.
And you've got a picture of Rory Culkin as Richard. So it's
That's
three
right.
Culkins.
I saw that in the credits.
Yep.
Yep.
You can even tell when you see it. It's like, oh yeah, he's another Culkin for sure.
All these
Definitely the same face.
Culkins.
Yeah.
There's so much, and he's a good actor too now. And of
Mm.
course, Kieran Culkin. They've
Yeah.
all outshone Macaulay at this point.
Mm. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, okay. So yeah, if anyone is interested in this movie, like, go pause this and watch it now before we talk about the ending, and then come back because
It's
I swear to
absolutely
God,
insane.
Mm-hmm. It demands to be seen. I mean, it has to be
absolutely.
experienced.
So now that you've all watched it and you're back, or if you just don't care,
That was a wild 90 minutes, huh?
Yeah. Speaking of 90 minutes, this is a nice short movie, at least, though, right? It like clocks in under 90 minutes.
Well, it's
Oh
for
yeah,
kids, right?
barely. It's like 80
Absolutely.
plus a few for credits. It's very short.
Yeah.
Those Comic Sans credits.
Hmm.
But basically, the mother does start to finally suspect that her son was responsible for her other son's death, and she starts to see through his bullshit a little bit, which I guess she has time to think about because every other scene is her just standing alone on this cliff looking out at the water, where she goes to think about her dead or living children, and
Yeah,
that's
I guess she's finally like, I don't know, like she looks at the wall in his bedroom that obviously has a little thing that's on a dartboard that looks like a face. It's like all these weird masks, all these things that are just so obviously like serial killer shit
Right.
everywhere.
But
And
it
she's like,
still
huh.
feels, yeah. It's like she still doesn't really believe it till the very last moment. Like, not till she's on the cliff at the end. It's
Yeah.
like she still doesn't want to think it. So, really,
yeah.
beggars belief to do that.
It is this really intense scene because first we have Elijah Wood locked in this room and he can see that they're walking away together and he's been warned that Macaulay's going to actually try to kill his mom, and so he throws a chair through the window and goes running out, and Macaulay runs out and shoves his mother off the side of this cliff, and she goes like halfway down somehow and manages to hang on and climb back up while Elijah Wood is rolling around on the ground with him, trying to stop him in this scuffle.
Smeagol and Frodo.
Yeah. Like all
And
great movies, there's always a vine. There's always some
yes,
branch sticking out somewhere to hang
Yep.
on. Yeah.
All good movies.
so these two are like beating the shit out of each other and
Hmm.
and trying to strangle each other while the mom makes her way up just in time for them both to go rolling off the side of the cliff and for her to catch each one in opposite hands, and they start to slip and she has to choose one to let fall to his death and one to keep. And I don't know, can you take me like a play by play through how you were processing this? At least Seth, I know this was your first time watching it, and I've every time I watch this movie with people, I'm like, they're not ready that this movie's actually going to have this happen. And you have Macaulay going, "Mom, please, I love you, I need your other hand."
It almost felt like a Darren Aronofsky, like over the topness, like for over topness sakes kind of moment. Just like, it's just like too much, too much. And as Macaulay is also doing his like shtick, he's like trying to manipulate her even in this crazy scenario. Oh my god!
Hmm.
And he drops. She makes the decision. She sure does. She drops that Culkin
Couldn't be any other way.
and saves that wood. And we see dead ass Culkin.
I
He's
know.
dead on the rocks. That is like the wildest part. That there's like footage that looks. I don't know what they did or how they did it, but it looks rather convincing of Macaulay Culkin squished on a rock, getting uh like blown away by a wave.
I
Yeah,
assume
they
it was like
left.
another Mr. Highway. They had to make a Macaulay doll.
Yeah, or maybe just like a discarded Culkin, one of the ones that wasn't good at acting.
One that didn't take.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to make sure like there was no room for Good Son 2 where he was going to come back. Like they make sure to just show him falling all the way
No, no,
down and then that
no.
cut.
Hmm.
Horror movie rules. He got washed away rather quickly. I could believe it.
And then the craziest thing to me after that is we have this mother who just let her own son go voluntarily after he tried to kill her and watched him go crashing to the sea below and pulls up Elijah Wood, and the movie just ends. Like
Right.
It's
it is
over.
not ready to it doesn't want to deal with any of the implications of that.
Nope.
Like that's almost where the movie should start. I want to see the movie start with that and then
Yeah,
we see how it proceeds from there.
that would be interesting. But it's not going to deal with grief. I mean, look at the way that the husband always treats her. Like, no grief, no mourning, no time for it. Just move
Yep.
on. So it tracks. It definitely
We killed the
tracks.
monster. It's like a 50s monster movie. They blew up the monster and then it fades to black really fast.
Imagine the two of them walking back at the dad coming out, like, "Hey, where were you guys?" Like,
Listen,
you
let
won't
me
believe
explain.
this.
Let me explain.
Yeah, how do you explain any of this to someone who would never believe it? I mean, where's
Man,
that movie?
She's like, "Well, listen, it's all started when I went into the shed, and then we were on the cliff, and yeah,
Uh,
I
and
well,
will
that's why they got to
say
go back
that
to that therapist. They got to go back to that lady and figure it out.
who is kind of like she doesn't really come to much in this movie. She's kind of
Nope.
this old lady, and she they have like a brief conversation about like, well, you see, Elijah Wood, I don't really believe in evil. I just think that means you haven't taken enough time to understand them or whatever. And then Elijah's like, you should believe in evil, saying that I guess the movie's stance is that I guess that there is just pure evil and old ladies be tripping.
And that therapists are just really easily manipulated, I
Yeah,
guess.
and get shoved out of the movie pretty quickly.
Yeah.
it really treats him more like this is an Omen movie or something, where he's just going around trying to convince people that like there is this evil child.
It works on his dad though. Elijah calls his dad, and then he basically just babbles about how like, he's evil. He's an evil guy. He's really mean, and he killed a dog, and he's bad. And then his dad is just immediately like, "Oh my god, I will be right there. I'm leaving now." And like you're just waiting for like an actual like argument or something, but for like that it's like really out of character and doesn't really track with reality. Like the dad just immediately believes him and is like getting on a plane apparently. um
And of
I
course,
mean,
the
I guess,
movie ends before we ever get to see him again.
I don't know if maybe he was just telling
right.
him feeding him a line, but
I mean, maybe we have to believe that there are more good adults in the world, so you gotta have somebody else who actually cares about this kid. Maybe.
yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, what also, I mean, it's like a boom boom. It just keeps going. Like all the crazy stuff just builds to that Sophie's Choice. Because before that, you also have Macaulay gaslighting Elijah Wood into thinking that all the food in the house is poison. So Elijah
Right.
Wood like looks like absolutely insane, shoving all the food that they have into the garbage disposal. Um, which is really funny because I just watched Troll 2, and there's
Right.
a wonderful scene in that where
Mm.
the dead grandpa ghost tells him that the food is poison, and so therefore, what's he gonna do? He's gonna pee all over the food. So it reminded me of that, and then they both get in trouble. Both these poor boys who have to do what's right, which is destroy all the food by any means necessary to save their family. They get in
Of
trouble.
course.
Yeah, that's so cringy. Because first of all, he falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. Just like he thinks he's just going to destroy all the food in the fridge and not look like a crazy person.
Right.
And the whole
What an
movie is
idiot.
just like scene after scene of that.
I mean,
uh,
it's entertaining. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I would imagine that everyone making it thought this is at least going to be fun to watch. It'll be crazy, but whether they really thought it would be taken seriously is the question. I mean, I would love to know if anyone making it was just laughing between takes. Did they actually take any of it seriously? Cuz
Right.
can't imagine.
I mean, my take on it really is that it's the problem is that it's not deep, and it kind of starts to want to give off this feeling that it is reaching for something deep, but it's not. But I will say it is genuinely over the top and thrilling at certain points, and like for better or worse with this like I can't help but feel like a engrossing movie with all the fucking movie that they're putting into this movie with the soundtrack and all the way the cinematography works and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I am really engaged. I'm very engaged by this movie, and not just
Mm-hmm.
purely from a so bad it's good level.
no, really, like I can't look away
Yeah.
ever during it. And for a movie I've seen so many times now, And it has become one of those where I just want to show it to people because I just can't believe it exists. So it is like it's a weird level that I engage with it on, but it is one of a kind. And if you're just taking it on its own terms, I can't figure out who it's actually for, because it's like a Macaulay Culkin fan is going to be horrified by it. If anyone is looking for a serious movie, it's kind of laughable in those ways. Like, I mean, it got bad reviews. This was not an Oscar contender. This didn't sweep like Silence of the Lambs did. Ultimately, in the end, it's kind of a bummer more than anything.
Yeah.
But it
I mean,
does
when
put my
I
stomach in knots, especially when it gets to that ending. Like, my jaw just drops every time.
when I last rewatched it, I think I only gave it 1 star, and I was trying to figure out why would I give it so low a rating, because it's terrible, but I have such a great time watching it. I mean, I'm laughing the whole time. And the only thing I can imagine is that I think when I last rewatched it, it was part of a David Morse festival. And I was like, too few scenes, 1 star, not enough David Morse. I must have been so frustrated that he just
Oh, there
disappears
you
from the
go.
movie. He got his paycheck, I guess, but that's it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not as terrible as 1 star given just how hilarious it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really hilarious. So, I don't know. I've got to reappraise it now.
It's effective on a lot of different levels. Again, part of that being because it's fucking stupid, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it does belong to a sort of lineage. I mean, I mean, on a certain level, I feel like this is kind of it could almost be like a Hitchcock sort of gimmick in a Hitchcock movie, like the evil kid, the Omen, the bad seed.
Hmm.
That movie kind of flows from that. It I definitely thought of Clifford, which
I love Clifford.
also has this sort of 90s-ness where you're like, you have
Hmm.
to keep on reminding yourself that this is a crazy, like, Martin Short is pretending to be a 10-year-old boy in this scenario, but again, it also has this sweeping score in Clifford, like
Yeah,
it's
that
a
also
normal
tries
ass
to be.
movie.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
movie also tries to be like a family movie with a lesson and
but also gets
a
really dark
saccharine
and
side to it.
True.
They're
It gets
both
to
yeah.
be an
just
incredible
super
cup of
early
milk.
90s movies in that way. Like, you can't take this away from its time. Like,
No.
Hmm.
that's what explains its existence and how weird it is.
Right.
Which
I don't
we were
think you
joking
could.
that oh sorry.
Well, I don't think you could explain the iconic aspect of Macaulay Culkin's stardom to someone who's just discovering him now and doesn't really get it. Like, you have to really think about what it was like for him to be a superstar, the most famous child star.
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of it too.
And doing nothing but being just cute and cloying and mugging in all those movies too.
Hmm.
But not even in a straight ahead way. He's like dopey. It's like a weird thing. I wonder what like kids watching him now think. I don't know. He's just like I don't know. He's like a weird dopey looking kid. We
I
were
don't think he's
joking though that
smart.
they should make a Clifford version of they should bring him back and do like a Clifford version of the Bad Son, like a sequel where he like plays is to redo it, but everybody, the Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin, they're playing their original characters, but now they're old. I think that would just be even more unsettling. I'm really down for it.
Well, I just want now a Clifford too.
Well,
I mean, Martin
I
Short
do
would do that.
also. Uh, being
Martin Short could absolutely do that.
oh
Oh,
my god, if only.
I like even better the idea of just doing this movie, but with Martin Short playing the little kid.
Sure.
Like, that would be so great.
Woo,
I could see that.
crossover like Freddy vs. Jason. It would be really good. Clifford versus Bad Son.
Definitely. I'd pay for that. I
Yeah.
feel like Martin Short and Macaulay Culkin are the kind of people who actually would do that, even if just for like a Funny or Die short. I
Oh,
could
Yes.
see them
totally.
doing that.
I know people always interview him about Home Alone and Richie Rich and stuff, but I just want to hear him talk about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
This is definitely the most fascinating. And
Hmm.
before we wrap up this movie, do want to talk about the very ending, because like right after we get him falling off the cliff and it pulls away on this big helicopter shot, and then we just go straight to Elijah Wood standing in the middle of a giant desert vista with
Mm-hmm.
canyons all around. And his final thought is just, sometimes I wonder that day if she had to do it all over again, if she would make the same choice. I'll always wonder, but I'll never ask. And then it ends. Like the
Would
whole
she
movie
drop
just
my
became
ass?
about.
Yeah, I have to assume that's part of the endless script doctoring, because who would ever write that if they were actually a good novelist?
Like that's where, yeah, that's where the thought drops.
Yeah, that's such a weird place to end.
What does that mean? Like, why is he? Yeah.
It's just like one more scene of him going, "Wow, man, can't believe she dropped her own son off that cliff." Roll credits.
What a crazy
Right, I
bitch.
mean, I feel like when you see him in that desert again, it's like, will he ever see her again? Will they ever talk about this again? Is that it? They'll never visit? What happens
Also,
if they
is
visit?
also she's probably in jail or something.
Yeah,
That whole aspect of her killing her son,
that would
but
be the
also
sequel. Yeah.
I guess they could I mean, I mean that's I was wondering about that. Like they leave that to your own mind as to what would have happened, because maybe her and Elijah have an understanding. Like they're gonna have a story probably, or like, all right, this is what we're gonna say to the
Right.
cops when they come.
Just say it was an accident,
Yeah.
or are they going to make sure, like, do they want everyone to know that we discovered he's actually a killer and he was trying to kill me? Or do we just sweep it
Right.
all under the rug?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that they would sweep it under the rug. I feel like that's what the father would do. They would just be like, "Nope, not gonna deal with this."
Yeah, it'd be
I
really
Ooh,
don't. I
hard
don't see
to.
them digging into the psychology of it.
the mom turns around and pins it on Elijah.
Ugh,
That would I think that would be good. That's how it should have ended.
maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, I wonder if they shot like multiple endings. I want to see one where she drops Elijah Wood, one where she drops both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to do that. Like Clue, like
She
just have
drops
all
both
three
of them.
endings.
She's just like, fuck this.
I hate you.
Drops
Both of
them
you guys.
both.
Fuck both of you guys.
Right.
Or maybe just one ending too, where she rallies her strength and she pulls both of them up. I don't know.
Yeah,
And then
I
he
mean,
pushes her off again.
yeah, like get some of that mom strength. Like just do it somehow.
Right.
Yeah, I would have loved that.
But no, they went with the standing alone in the Grand Canyon ending, I guess.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I
in the
assume
end,
after the father has picked him up and is driving him, and I would love to know if they talked about
mhm,
this on the road trip. Like, what are they going to talk about?
There comes a time in every young man's life where he gets dangled by a woman over a cliff and she has to make a choice. I don't know. I don't know what they were talking about.
well, enough about my week, Dad. How was Japan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I wish we got those 5 extra minutes.
I know. Are they is he actually never going to have to leave him again? I don't know. Might have been hyperbole.
I don't
Maybe the
know.
deal didn't go through.
Yeah, I kind of want to know more about that job now. That's where all my questions are. What was that job? What did he have to
hmm
do?
See, that would have been dope. It was like, son, I lost my job. You're going to have to start working.
Mm-hmm.
You never even got to
Sure.
tell anyone about Mr. Highway.
Yeah, that's the weirdest
Magical
part.
Mr.
Like,
Highway.
that's just never going to be discussed ever.
Yeah, you're right. What I would give just for a couple more minutes of this movie. Like,
Of the
it
good
bothers me to
son.
this day. It really
Well, I
does.
mean, I do feel like I like how short it is, because it does feel like it's very well paced, and I feel like it does what it needs to do, gets there, but then you just keep thinking about what's missing and you wish that it was longer, but then you think, well, but if it were really longer, then it would just become intolerable. So, I don't know, like it's a fine line to walk,
Yeah,
but
that's
I do
why
keep
like I
wishing we had
definitely
some of
would
those
not
scenes.
unwatch this movie because it's definitely not boring, and it's the things that are just insane and miscalculated about it that make it this unique object
Hmm.
that even watching it this possibly 10th time, like I was still on the edge of my seat and I was
You
still feeling
sadist.
queasy. and can just like barely take it. So yeah, you can't separate what makes this dumb from what makes it interesting.
Sure. And I also love the extremely weird footnote that at the same time that David Morse made this extremely, I just love David Morse trivia, so you'll bear with me. At the same time that he made this terrible thriller, he was also in a terrible short-lived sitcom, which I feel like is funny because he seems like a person who has never been funny a day in his life. He just exclusively does drama. So he was in a sitcom called Big Wave Daves, which was about opening a surf shop in Hawaii. And I just feel like that
Whoa.
plus this movie. What were his choices in 1993?
He was finding himself.
He was.
Well, he's one of those guys who's in so many movies that, and most people would not know his name, but they would recognize him.
That guy, yeah.
Yes.
So I know he's in The Green Mile, and I know him. I'm pretty sure. Isn't he? Did you ever see the Langoliers miniseries?
Yes.
Isn't he like a pilot or something?
I strangely love that. I mean, it is so bad. It's so fun. Bronson Pinchot. Oh my god. A performance brought to you by cocaine. I love it.
Oh yeah, that's a crazy one. Yeah, I watched that again a couple years ago.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, classic TV movie guy. But so any final thoughts then about The Good Son? I think I pretty much shared where I was coming from with this, and I hope everyone goes out there and watches it.
I'm all about big crazy oddities, and I love that we have one, especially ones where they actually funneled a shit ton of money into it, and proof that it can still just be like totally calculated and come out like a strange Frankenstein monster. I just love that, and we're lucky anytime we get those, especially now when it feels like everything is like, especially like with big Hollywood movies and things like that. Everything's so calculated and safe feeling, and like it always seems like they just eke by it and it comes out okay. It's like just okay. I really would love to see more movies like this. Like, I mean, I feel like Cats is maybe the last one that was like that, where it was like funneled $1 billion in, everybody's thinking really hard about it, and then it's just totally like comes out like a crazy slime beast. And this, yeah, I want more crazy slime beasts that cost a lot of money.
Well, that raises the question: if someone remade it now, who would play those characters? Like, is there a star who could
are
be
there
in
child
the Macaulay
stars
Culkin
at all anymore?
Timothy Chalamet.
Like in movies?
He's like 12, right?
Oh. Yeah, that's true.
Seth beat me to it. I was about to say I want to see this remade with Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya.
He is a man in his 20s.
They are both 12 years old, Mark.
What about like young Sheldon? He could do this.
Maybe.
He's not young anymore. That was a long time ago.
I was just saying the other day to someone, because Eddie Redmayne is about to be on Broadway, I was like, I know he's a man in his early 40s, but he just seems permanently 14 to me. He just looks like a teenager. Maybe Eddie Redmayne. He could do it.
Okay.
He did that Good Nurse movie where he was a sociopath, so, it fits.
I don't know. And these kids in this movie, like, they're not even teenagers. They're supposed to be, what, like 12 or something?
Probably 10.
10? Yeah. I mean, this is right after Home Alone 2, so picture Macaulay Culkin in that movie is basically in this. Like, these are little kids.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing we don't have, like, super famous child movie stars like that you can just list off now. Because, I mean, it never seems to end well.
True.
Macaulay's got like a Velvet Underground cover band where they talk about pizza or something, right?
Oh yeah, he does seem to be fine, but I know things are estranged with his dad, so it wasn't like he had a tough time while he was a kid doing all this. But
I do like the idea of doing a sort of Clifford-esque adults in those roles kind of thing and figuring out how they navigate this. That would be pretty amazing.
I'm crossing my fingers. Mark, it was extra haunting for you though to watch this, probably because he keeps on. Macaulay Culkin is referring to Marc constantly.
Yeah, he keeps saying Marc.
That as a kid must have been like, any younger must have just been like, oh, I don't know, why is he talking to me?
Yeah, it was like I was him. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose one of my parents, and then the kid's gonna come after me, and no one's gonna believe me, and
Where's
he's
your
gonna
sense
push
of
my
humor,
aunt off a
Mark?
cliff, and no one's gonna believe me about Mr. Highway.
He's gonna make me fly.
I mean, Mark, once you realize you can do anything, you're free.
Whoa.
You could fly.
So many
Nobody
creepy
can touch
lines.
you. Nobody. Mark, don't be
Nobody.
afraid to fly.
He's like Neo.
Yeah, good
Wow.
life lessons.
So did we cover all the thoughts on this film?
I think so.
Did we do it?
It is simultaneously unwatchable but so rewatchable. It exists.
Oh my
in
god.
both
Maybe one of the most
realities.
watchable unwatchables.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Perfect for this podcast. I'm so glad that you chose it.
And honestly, like, there were so many things I wanted to choose, but I thought, ugh, I can't let this go. I can't let the evil kids go. Like, gotta try this.
It's
And I'm
going
sure
to
I'll rewatch it
continue.
again.
It's going to continue haunting me. I know it's not going to be the last time I watch it, and I'm never going to stop thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. As it should be.
Yeah. Tony, are you wanting to say something? You keep popping in and out.
No, sorry, I was just anticipating
Oh, okay.
you wrapping up.
I thought maybe you had something. Well,
No.
Jetta, before we let you go, and not to put you on the spot, I kind of forgot that we've been asking this kind of little general questionnaire at the end of each episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, feel free to take your time thinking about these, because I didn't think to give you them ahead of time. But we would like to get to know you a little bit, and these are just some general questions, starting with Jetta Weinstein, The Iron Cupcake. What is your favorite film?
Wings of Desire.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone just has an answer offhand for that, but so far we've lucked out.
Yeah. Well, when you love something that much, I mean, you don't have to think about it.
Just pops out.
Mm.
All right. Did you see the new Vim Vendors movie from last year?
I really, really want to. So I know that it's streaming now. I'm kind of hoping. I think it's still in some New York theaters, so I'll try to get to it. But yeah, it sounds wonderful.
All right, cool. All right, Wings of Desire. Now, what is a film that you can think of where your opinion changed significantly upon rewatching it, either for the better or for the worse?
That's a really, really good question.
I know this is why I need to remember to give these questions
Yeah,
ahead
you really
of time.
should have. Now I can't think of anything. I'm trying to think if there's anything recently that I gave a really high or low rating to that I didn't expect. I don't know if I can think of anything on the spot.
You can take your time. Tony can edit this to be shorter.
Should I just check Letterboxd?
Sure.
Okay. I'm terrible. I have a terrible memory when it comes to this kind of thing.
I can't make it shorter, but I can edit in the Jeopardy music or something.
I would
No, I'm just kidding.
appreciate that.
I'll make it shorter.
With Paul Giamatti's spinning head.
I'm having fun.
Well, I mean, I guess, there's some movies that I remember liking, and then when I rewatch them, it's like, oh my god, this is perfect, and I don't expect it. That's how I felt about Barbed Wire. Barbed Wire is amazing. And I liked it when I saw it. It's so good. I mean, I really liked it when I first saw it, but then I rewatched it, and I was like, this is 5 stars. This is perfect.
Man,
I could
yeah,
not ask
I'm
for
excited.
better. Yeah.
Was that added to Criterion?
Yes, because it's part of their Razzies collection.
Okay. God bless them. That's
so
why Freddie Got
good.
Fingered is on there now.
Yes. And it's just amazing seeing all the people who are like, wow, I never would have wanted to watch Showgirls until now, but it's like, why wouldn't you want to? How could you ignore it? How could you deny it? Just because it's on Criterion now? I mean, sure, but everyone should want to watch these. It's important.
Yeah. All right, well, maybe this one will be easier then. What could you think of as possibly your least popular opinion about a film where you've completely deviated from people? And honestly, I mean, you might be able to say Barbed Wire for all that I know. But I imagine there's a lot of ones like that.
Well, I mean, I do have a tendency to give extremely high ratings to movies that most people are like, what? Why would you like that? I think the one that will always linger in my memory as just like the responses were so agitated. Um, I watched a movie last year called Marketa Lazarova, also on Criterion. I thought it was the worst movie I'd ever seen. And when I tell you, the people, I mean, I called it a fart, I said it was a waste of time. The people who came out yelling at me about how could you think this? Because I hated it. I don't know. I mean, like, I can't, you know, some people, I guess, when they really hate movies, they just won't review them, they won't bother explaining it. I will say why I don't like it, I will go into it. So, I don't know. They couldn't handle that I hated this art house classic. So, I stand by
It
my
was a
half-star
fart.
rating. It was a cinematic fart, yes.
Ew.
I mean,
Some of
I
those
feel very strongly
so-called art
about that.
house classics are
I
not
mean, would
so
you like me
good.
to read my very, very short review? Because I'll do that. That
Do
is how
it.
strongly I feel about this. It was only like 2 lines, I think. I said, oh, the line that I quoted at the beginning from the movie, Jesus, why do you punish me? This is a parody of a serious foreign film, right? On the official critic scale for such fart, which has the F in parentheses, I give 5 fooey out of 5, which is a reference to Sesame Street. I don't know what y'all are smoking to think this is actually good, but I'd love to try some. I'll be content with never hearing another Gregorian style chant for the rest of my life. So many Gregorian chants. It was like 2
Oh,
hours
I
of
didn't know
Gregorian
that.
chants. And the
It's
horrible thing is,
serious and arty.
my friend Rob recommended it, and I care very much about his opinion.
Oh,
But
poor Rob.
it was so bad.
Good for you for actually being mean to it, though. Sometimes we do that on here where I feel like somebody chooses a movie, and if we're talking to the guests, we gotta be like, well, mainly Mark has to do that, I guess. Usually I'm a little bit more
Yeah.
positive, but
I'm like, why is Gummo your favorite movie? Oh, I could see that.
you're like,
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm trying to think. I feel like the music maybe was good.
Boy,
I
they
just
know
think you
how
have
to
to
keep that
stand by
lens
your
in
opinion.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you totally said that one time. It's like they were really good. Everything was in focus.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that dialogue was telligible.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes
anyways,
you can't help it. You gotta just say what you feel.
yeah. And now in the spirit of the podcast, what would you say is perhaps your most unwatchable movie? And now that could be something
Mm.
that, I mean, you could interpret that how you want to, as something you just hate, but also, maybe something that literally like you just don't want to sit through. We've had people, cite movies that have animal cruelty in them or something that hits too close to home.
Right. Well, I mean, I could mention a movie that I actually never finished because I almost never do that. I always watch movies till the end, but this one was so bad, I just turned it off like maybe 40 minutes into it. So I feel like that counts. Have you ever seen Ondine by Neil Jordan?
No.
Yeah, I hated it. I just turned it off. And I couldn't believe it because it was based on the same myth that was used by Christian Petzold as Undine, which is a wonderful
Oh,
film.
okay. It's
So it
spelled like
uses that.
Ondine.
Yes, it uses
Okay,
that
now I know what you're
same.
talking about.
Right, it uses that same water myth, the fairy who charms a man. And I thought I'm gonna love this. It's got Colin Farrell. I love Neil Jordan. It was so horrible. I could not bear to sit through it. It was like the worst example of the male gaze making me feel gross and uncomfortable that I'd seen in a
Ooh.
long time. It's just like every shot of the I wish I could remember her name, the Polish actress who plays Undine. It was like every shot was in her underwear or like undressed, like naked. And it was horrible. Horrible, horrible. And that's coming from me, a person who loves Doris Wishman and every kind of sexploitation. Like ugh. So I don't know. It was just untenable. So that would definitely be my unwatchable honor.
All right, well,
Ding
I'm glad you got to drag it
ding.
here then, since
And
This
it's
is
I
where
your
it
like Neil
podcast.
Jordan.
belongs. We'll
I
probably
mean,
do an episode.
yeah.
All right, and the final and most important question is Southland Tales. Good or bad?
I have not seen it.
That is a
most
surprisingly
common
popular answer.
Very
Yeah,
popular
that answer's starting to win
answer.
out.
I actually had the opportunity to see it on the big screen last summer, and I chose not to because Sunset Boulevard was playing the same day, and I was like, that's
Oh,
good.
God bless you.
I'll go with that. Yeah. But one day I will, because I've seen Donnie Darko. I mean, I guess I'm kind of interested in whatever else Richard Kelly did, but just never enough to actually put myself through it yet. So.
Well, he did a lot in that one.
We're gonna
It's a
put
I
it
have
on
lot
to
the
sustain
report
the
of what
rest
he
of that
did.
career that hasn't happened. Yeah.
I take it as a victory that less and less people are even seeing it now.
I take it as a victory that there are even more people that can be turned on by the magic of
Well, if you ever
too much.
do watch it, call in during one of our live shows, and we'll pick up and we'll put your vote in.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll try and guide you.
I will watch things that a lot of people do think are unwatchable because they think that. I mean, like, I'll watch any Lifetime thriller. I will watch things that for a lot of people are just such trash. So, I mean, I can still give this a try. Why not?
Southland Tales could play on Lifetime. There's no reason it
Oh
can't.
my God.
You can put commercials in that movie. It would just make it 5 hours long. But
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely something
I
you
guess
can use breaks during.
that would be my other answer for most bizarre opinion. I will give something like The Wrong Life Coach 5 stars. Nobody will do that. Nobody will say that a Lifetime thriller like that is worth 5 stars, but I will.
only you know what is worth 5 stars deep down inside you. That's how it works.
Exactly. The pure
Sounds like
hilarity.
Southland Tales has a chance then.
Yeah. There's very little I will not try. I will try most things. So, why not?
Well, that's the spirit.
I'm curious.
Well, that's a
Definitely.
wonderful, heartwarming note to end on. I want to thank you again, Jetta, for joining us. Anyone, go onto Letterboxd, look up The Iron Cupcake. You can see other podcast appearances as well. And as always, it was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me on again.
You're
I've got
one
many
of our
more episodes
favorites.
that I
It
want to
was
do.
so good to have you. Yes, I know. I will have Cupcake Corner. We should have Cupcake Corner.
Unwatchables is produced by Tony Scarpitti, hosted by me, Marc Dottavio, and Seth Troyer, with artwork by Micah Kraus. You can find Seth and I on Letterboxd under Marc Dottavio and Sloth Troyer. You can also check us out at unwatchablespod.com for links to our Twitter and Instagram, or support us on Patreon for bonus content and to have a say in what we watch. Thanks for listening.